The short in stature, yet with a reputation as vast as the Roman Empire. He sat atop a mountain of gold, yet remained submerged in an abyss of human hatred. The world looked upon him with envy, assuming he had everything, but within himself he pleaded with his Creator for a single second of peace. His table was overflowing with the finest delicacies, yet his soul suffered from a severe, lifelong hunger. His name was spat out like filth. When he walked through the neighborhood, doors were slammed shut. To his own people, he was viewed as a deadly poison. Most of us only know him as the short man who climbed a tree. But behind those branches, and beneath his bags of gold, there is a hidden secret. This story isn't just about physical height. It is a profound exploration of how a golden prison of loneliness is shattered, how a conscience betrayed for profit finds liberation, and above all, how a man whom the world spat out as hopeless can become the heart friend of the King of Heaven. This is the history of Zacchaeus. Welcome to this journey. Today, we cross the dusty roads of Jericho and peer into the secret world of tax collectors. Using that sycamore tree as our ladder, we will enter a broken heart. History records few chapters where human dignity was so trampled and the light of hope so dimmed as in first-century Judea. Imagine the dusty streets, hear the distant clashing of Roman shields and spears. This story begins in a land known for prayer and song, yet trapped in the iron web of an occupying Rome. In those days, Judea had no king, no law, and no freedom of its own. Instead, the Roman eagle spread its wings over the Jerusalem sky. Rome did not rule by force alone, but through a systematic tax farming protocol. The Romans did not collect taxes directly. Instead, they set up a predatory system that turned brother against brother. They would determine the tax amount required from a wealthy city like Jericho and then hold an auction. The individual who promised the highest sum to the government won the contract. This winner was called a publican, tax collector. This is where the poison began. Once the collector paid the government's share, every extra cent he squeezed out of the people was his personal profit. The law set no ceiling. It was a silent license to extort. Imagine the social fracture. Hard-working farmers, shepherds, and weary merchants had to hand over the fruits of their labor, not to a foreign soldier, but to a neighbor who spoke their language and shared their faith. To be a tax collector was to be labeled a traitor. An Orthodox Jew who became a publican became a stranger to his own identity. He had no place in the synagogue. His prayers were considered unclean, his word a lie, and his house a curse. They were seen as the fangs of Rome, sucking the blood of the poor. Jericho, a hub of dates and expensive perfumes, was the center of this oppression. And Zacchaeus was the chief of these collectors, a king of profit who controlled every coin, yet didn't hold an inch of space in the hearts of his people. Look inside Zacchaeus' house. See the piles of gold and silver. To his conscience, however, those coins didn't just clink, they screamed. Every coin represented a neighbor's deception, a father's exhaustion, or a widow's last crust of bread. He was successful by the world's standards. He had the mansion and the fine clothes. People cleared the way for him, not out of respect, but out of fear and loathing. He was a mocus, a collector at the trade routes, but he had built a wall of injustice on the road to his own soul. The encounter, the sycamore tree then. A rumor began to spread like wildfire. The teacher is coming. Jesus of Nazareth is entering the city. Zacchaeus had heard of this teacher, that he did not hate tax collectors, that he sat at the table with sinners, and that he healed the hidden fractures of the human heart. Zacchaeus was starving for this, but there was a problem: the crowd. The crowd acted as a physical and spiritual wall. Because he was short, he couldn't see over them. But more than that, the shortness of his soul prevented him from reaching the divine. When he tried to push through, people likely pushed back, whispering, "What are you doing here, Roman dog?" Sometimes the crowd, society, is the biggest obstacle between a person and God. So, Zacchaeus made a radical decision. He threw away his dignity. A high-ranking official running through the streets like a child? He didn't care. He climbed a sycamore tree. The symbolism of the tree in spiritual tradition, this tree represents the church. When our spiritual height is too short to see God due to our sins, the church acts as the ladder that lifts us above the noise of the world. Zacchaeus hid in the leaves, thinking, "I will see him, but he won't see me." But he didn't realize that, before he climbed the tree, the Lord was already sitting on the throne of his heart. Jesus stopped under the tree. In a city of thousands, he looked up and called him by name. "Zacchaeus, come down quickly, for I must stay at your house today." This was a shock. No one called him Zacchaeus, which means pure or just. They called him thief or traitor. By using his name, Jesus was reminding him of his original identity, the one God created, not the one his sins had forged. Zacchaeus didn't hesitate. He came down and received him with joy. While the righteous crowd grumbled about Jesus entering a sinner's house, a spiritual surgery was taking place inside. Zacchaeus stood up and recalculated his life's math. "Lord, I give half of my goods to the poor, and if I have taken anything from anyone by false accusation, I restore fourfold." Under Roman law, he only had to pay a 20% penalty, but Zacchaeus chose the harshest penalty of Mosaic law, fourfold restitution. He wasn't just paying a fine, he was killing his greed. Jesus declared, "Today salvation has come to this house." Salvation wasn't the loss of his wealth. It was liberation from the slavery of wealth. History suggests Zacchaeus went on to serve with the Apostle Peter and eventually became the bishop of Caesarea, ultimately dying as a martyr. The man who climbed a tree to see the Lord ended his journey by carrying his own cross for the Lord. The question remains for us: what does it profit a man to gain the whole world but lose his soul? If you have a mountain of wealth but no one to love you, you aren't rich. You are just a prisoner in a golden cage. Today, the Lord is standing under your tree, calling you to come down. Are we ready to trade our gold for our souls? The choice is ours, to remain a collector of things or a follower of the truth. Subscribe to Hidden Chapters and journey deeper into the untold stories of the Bible, cinematically reimagined, because some stories were never meant to stay hidden.